Welcome everyone to today's webinar titled How to Convert FrameMaker Documents to Good Usable DITA. My name is Brian Tipper. I'm the CEO here at Stilo, and I'm sitting alongside Helen St. Denis, our Conversion Services Manager. So before we begin, let's go over some quick housekeeping rules. First off, everyone will be muted throughout the duration of the webinar. If you have any technical questions, please submit them via the Q&A panel, and please note that we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. Next, Allison, our marketing manager, will be handling all technical issues and general questions via the chat module. You can communicate with her by messaging the username Stilo International. And finally, the webinar will be recorded. A link to the recording will be emailed to everybody that registered approximately 1 hour after the webinar concludes. So without further ado, I'll hand the mic over to your presenter, Helen St. Denis.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for coming, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to start by just showing quickly how we go about operating our Migrate tool, which is what we're going to use to convert our FrameMaker to DITA. FrameMaker is a software that allows you to do lots and lots of cool things, and we want to make sure to keep as much of that cool stuff as we can. So this is the page you would see when you would first log into a Migrate portal. We'll just upload the document. And you can see that I have a FrameMaker chapter just saved in .mif format. And so I'll open that one. Migrate knows that it's a FrameMaker. And I'll hit upload. So while it's doing that, let's take a quick peek at the actual content that we're going to convert. So this is a document we put together in FrameMaker. It's a bit of a hodgepodge, so we can show a bunch of different things. So it is just a chapter with the usual things like titles and sections and lists and tables and so on. But again, it does contain some of these cool things that you can do with FrameMaker. So for example, we have some variables. So this would be, I believe it's a company name variable. Let's see. Yeah, company name variable. So we want to be able to keep that reusability that we have there with that variable. You can see here we have a table. Again, this is not really a meaningful table at all, but we put it in because we wanted to show how easy it is to get a table to come out with all its column spanning and row spanning with Migrate, whereas doing it in some other methods, converting these tables can be quite a challenge, quite a chore. So some of the other things that we like to look at. So we've got list items and tables and so on. If we go down a little further, we have an equation here. This equation was written with the FrameMaker equation tool. We're going to get that out into MathML. A little bit further down, yes, you can see we've got a drawing here. This was done with the FrameMaker drawing tool. We don't want to lose this. This is going to become an SVG. Here, as you can see, we've got some conditional text. So again, this is important for the reusability of the content. So we need to be able to preserve that. You'll notice we've also got an index marker in here. So we would generate, in FrameMaker, we would generate an index. So if we can preserve that index marker in the DITA, we can do the same thing when we publish the DITA. If we go down a little further, this title has, in fact, 2 index markers in it. Now we come to an example of a task topic, and the task topic has steps. And so this is fairly easy. So we will see that the steps are all formatted with a paragraph style called numbered or numbered 1. So we're just going to say if we've got numbered 1 or numbered, let's make it a step. And Migrate will take care of that. That will be easy. Now, if we tell Migrate to make a step and it shows up in a place where a step is not allowed, we'll get a numbered list item. Where it gets trickier is these paragraphs here. You can see that their paragraph style is numbered continued, but these are going to need to be step choice, whereas these, same paragraph style, will need to be substeps. So we need to use a little bit more than just the style to get those things correct. Go down a little further. Same sort of thing here. What we have here is obviously menu cascades, so we need to be able to identify those correctly, remove the separators so that they can be generated correctly when we're done. And if we go down a little further, we see the section that we put in that just shows some of the issues that we run into when we get ready to convert documents of any sort. So one of the things we find is that lots of things get formatted as tables that should not be tables in DITA. And this is an example. So this is a note. We don't want the note in a table in DITA. We just want it to be a note element. If we want to format it as a table afterwards, we would do that with our style sheet. So we need to take care of that. We've got related topics here. They are conditional because we would perhaps only want to publish those if they were online. So they're going to come out in a related links element. Scroll down through some of these. There's a lot more stuff here than we can go through. We have some steps in a table here. Again, we're going to strip out that table, make these into steps, and make sure this is a task. So here again is how Migrate handles what to do when it comes something that's supposed to be a step but can't be a step. It'll just make it a list. And this is another one of those cool FrameMaker things here. We have this note, and the note, in fact, is a text inset. And this is a common thing. People will want to put notes or hazard statements or some of these things that are commonly reusable will be in text insets. A text inset doesn't necessarily convert nicely to a ConRef because a text inset can have anything in it. ConRef is an element by element mechanism. But we can see how we can handle this in converting to DITA. And the last thing is this table at the end. We can see that it's terms and definitions in a table. Again, we're going to convert this to a definition list. It may very well end up formatted as if it were a table when it's published, but the DITA will be a list. So that's a quick look at the sorts of things we're going to try to get out of this FrameMaker document. Let's go back here. So we've uploaded. And you can see that we've now analyzed the document. It's uploaded and analyzed. While it's analyzed, Migrate has taken that MIF document and created an intermediate XML format from that. The XML format that it produces has only about half a dozen elements, but it does preserve all the properties that we see. Things like font style, color, it will keep information about markers, conditions, and so on. So all of those things are still there for us to identify the text that we're interested in and map it correctly to DITA. So we have lots more to rely on than just the paragraph style. It's also counted the number of text characters. So that tells us how much it's going to cost to convert. If I click on its file name, I find out about it. So it's 16 credits because it's 16,981 text characters. That's not including the white space. Some other statistics, they have nothing to do with the number of credits it's going to cost. They're just for our information. It does tell me that I'm going to have one SVG that's been extracted and one formula that's been extracted. And there's 6 tables in the document. That's just at analysis time. There will not be 6 when we're finished. I have no messages or warnings of any kind here in the analysis. If I did, I would have the opportunity now to decide if I wanted to make any changes to my input before I go ahead and accept the charges. But I have no warnings, so I will just say, okay, accept the charges. So I have 16 fewer in my pool over here now. I'll assign a rule set. Now, because this is a demo portal, I have many rules to choose from. And I will assign a target, same idea. And then I will hit convert. So now Migrate will take that intermediate XML format that we created, the rules that I put in place, and the schema for DITA 1.3 with some configurations to get us a book map the way we've specified, and it's going to create some DITA. And it is significant that the schema forms part of the conversion mechanism. Because it's schema driven, Migrate's always going to give you DITA that is valid to that schema. It's never going to put out something that's not valid. If there's something that is ambiguous or can't be done exactly as it is specified, Migrate will typically put it in required cleanup tags for you so that you can clean it up after. Or you can come back and change the rules and convert it again to have slightly different DITA. So this usually takes a minute or so to convert. Let's go back over here. Yeah, it took a minute and 35 seconds the last time. So I'm just going to download the one that converted previously, just so we can get a look at what we have. So it comes out in a zip folder. Come on, zip. Here we are. And we'll extract everything that we got. These things always seem to take ages when you're online doing them. Three, two, one. There we go. Okay, so we have a DITA file for every single DITA topic that we have. Because we have conditional text, we have a DITA file. We have a book map because that's what we specified. We have a key defs map as well because we created keys. We have a mathml file. This XML file is where we have put our conrefs. And we have an SVG. So let's open up the book map and have a look at what we've got. I'm going to open it up in XMetal because that's what I happen to have. Here we are. Okay. So this is my my map here, my book map. And just before we go through the topics, I just want to look at the XML of the map. So you'll see that in our book map, we've got a book title, we've got an author, and then in our front matter, we have a link to the key defs map with the appropriate processing role and a link to the file that is our ConRefs file, again with the appropriate processing role. And then we go on to fill out the front matter with notices and preface, and then we go on to chapters and so on. It's a pretty plain map. This is just our default configuration. Naturally, it can be configured in any way that we need to. Let's go back to the map editor. Okay, so it's nice and hierarchical. We've got obviously chapters here, and we've tried to replicate the hierarchy that we found in the original. So I'm not going to look at every single topic, obviously, but let's look at the ones where we found interesting things when we went through the input. So in the proprietary notice, this is where we found our table with our column spanning and row spanning. So you can see that that's all preserved. We also did find keywords here, variables, and we can't actually see them yet. So if I do this, you can see that the key ref is there. And then I go back and XMetal shows it to us now. So this is the value of our key right here. So that's those things. Okay, if we go in here. Okay, so my equation is come out as MathML. We saw that in the zip file. Now I did put in a rule to inline it. So here it is inline. Now it did not come out. It does not look quite right in XMetal. XMetal just doesn't display it properly. I'm just going to show you what it actually looks like. I do have it open here. Yes, here. Come on. So that's our equation, actually. That's the actual MathML right there. So I've made it inline. I could have left it out and it could be linked to just like an image. If I go down to software requirements. So here again is where I've got some conditional text. I'll just open it up here. So you can see what we do by default is whatever the name of the condition is, we put that in as the value of an other props attribute. That's the default. Obviously, it can all be mapped to whichever kind of profiling element is required. This is just the default output. And you'll see we've got our index term here as well. And hardware and software requirements would have the two index terms. So if we look at installing QuickTrace, we'll see how we've handled the steps, sub-steps, and choices. So we do have steps here. See steps, choices, sub-steps. And we have UI controls here as well. And here we have our menu cascades. So if we go down a little bit more, so tables that aren't tables. So here we had our note that was formatted as a table, and it has come out as a note, and we have our links as related links. So you can see this is a note of the appropriate type, and we have our related links here. So that's as we instructed, so that is fine. Now, one of the things that is cool about Migrate is if you should decide at some point that after all, you don't really want related links here, you would prefer to have a relationship table at this point, we can change that. So that's the thing that we can change. So when we go back to the rules editor, we can have a look at that. So let's actually just, before we finish looking through these, let's just go back and do that. I have a rules editor open here already, rather than wait for it to open. What you'll see here in this panel is a representation of the input format. It's actually based on the intermediate XML because it's the elements in the intermediate XML that get annotated to become our DITA architecture. So if we click on any of these things, let's see about this document, it tells us this is a heading 1. It tells us all this other stuff about this particular piece of text. We can use any of this information that we need to identify the text that we care about and annotate it appropriately. So in this case, I've made it the title of a concept. So I've looked for heading 1 and I've made it a concept, except in a certain few situations where, for example, I've said if it starts with a gerund, it's going to be a task. But this is a concept. So this is a fairly straightforward rule here. In this case as well, I've got some text that's a signal name element here, and I've just made that term. It's very simple. We find the style, we give it an annotation, and those two parts together work correctly. If we want to see how our lists worked, our steps, let's go down and find our steps. So here we have the rule that gives me my step. So it's going to tell me that because it's either numbered or numbered 1, it's going to be a step. If it's number 2 and number 2-1, it's going to be a step as well, but it will be a nested step. So it will come out as a sub-step if there's already a step open. So that's straightforward. We go from the paragraph style to the element. We've picked out the menu cascades inside as well. But this one was trickier because it has the same paragraph style as this, but we want to map it differently. So I've just looked to say, okay, I've got the paragraph style, and then I've said it doesn't start with a lowercase letter and a dot. Now I know it's a choice. And this one, the step command, so this is going to be the sub-step. If it does start with a lowercase letter and a dot, then it's going to be a sub-step. So there's lots of things we can use. So context, content, things like that that we can rely on to help us get the appropriate DITA. Here we've said these are menu cascades, and we're just going to eliminate these so that each of these will be a UI control, and we'll get a menu cascade enclosing all of it. But what I really wanted to do right now, we've got a table here that we stripped out, so that was easy. But what we really are caring about right now is just changing this rule, the rule that's made this into a related link. So I've just looked for an internal link that's conditional on being online, because that's what I used to decide it was a related link. I'm just going to change this, and instead of related link, I'm going to make it a relationship table. Oops, tried to spell it right. Luckily, if I don't spell it right, Migrate will tell me. So I'm going to save that. And while that, once we've done that, we can just go ahead and hit convert again. And you'll note I don't have to pay any more credits. It's just going to convert again. And I'll get to download it again and have a look at it. While it's doing that, what else did we do? Oh, yes. We have our ConRef here. So what we did was we looked for this property that we have retained, which is text inset, and it gives us the file name of the text inset. So we can use this information, which will be on every block element of whatever was in that text inset. And we can use that to identify the ConRef. So it'll be uniquely identified, no matter how many different documents it shows up in. The ID will be the same, so you can use it just the one time. And we've made it a ConRef. And here you can see that these guys have been annotated as a step, but we have steps above it, 2 layers of steps, so it will come out as a list item. And here we've got our definition table, and we've just made that into a definition list. We've just t.table.definitions makes it a definition list. We've just identified it by the fact that the table header is definition and term. So that's how all of those things work. You can get really fancy and complex with rules, but most of them will tend to be pretty straightforward. So let's go back to our output. This is our having more than 2 levels of steps. We'll see that. So that's a step. That's automatically a sub-step. That's automatically a list. All of these were marked as steps, but with different nesting levels. So Migrate figures all of that out for us. And this is our ConRef step. So you can see there's the concept, the context reference. Yeah, quickly we'll look at this. And that's our definition list. So as you can see, this has converted again already. We can just download it and see our relationship table. And this I do find to be one of the cooler things about Migrate is how quick and easy it is to make this kind of change. In a little document like this, it's perhaps not as big a deal, but when you consider doing it in whole book or a whole document set, making little changes like this can have a big impact on the amount of time it takes you to get the data that you want. So even if you don't necessarily know everything ahead of time of what you're going to need, it's pretty easy in most cases to make the modifications. It doesn't cost you any more. You just pay once. You can change your mind. You can change your mind back again. Fix anything you like. Okay, so here we are. Let's open up this data map. So you can already see, while it's refreshing here, you can already see that we now have a relationship table here. If we go back to issue 1, you can see that we no longer have the related links. And if we just open up this book map, scroll down and we can see the relationship table. Again, this particular formatting of the relationship table is the default one. We can do various configurations of relationship tables. Relationship tables can be just a lot of trouble to construct if you're doing them by hand. So it's great to be able to pull things out and put them automatically into a relationship table. That really helps you get the benefit of DITA from the content that you already have. A lot of work that's already been done to get these things reusable, publishable in different formats. And it would be a shame to lose them. So these are ways that you get to keep all the value of all that work. So that's basically it. Now we can, of course, if we have documents that are similar, the same rule set will work on them, more or less. We might need to open them up and make 1 or 2 modifications if we've got something slightly different. We can also clone these rules. So Stilo would create a set of rules for you to begin with. You can also clone them, make small modifications, make a similar set of rules for documents that are similar but not quite the same. All of that is things over which you would have control. And again, one of the great things about this is you have a great deal of control over the conversion, over what your data looks like when it comes out, over when you do the conversion. You can do it on kind of on a just-in-time basis. So it really puts it in your hands to a very large extent. I don't really have anything else to show right now, so I will have a look at the questions that we have.
Okay, thanks, Helen, for the excellent presentation. If you can go up to the trade show slide.
Oh, sorry, I went too far.
I'll go through that and just let everybody know our upcoming trade shows. So the first one is Convex, which will be a virtual trade show that is replacing DITA North America, DITA Europe, and Journeys. So this is going to be held in September. We'll have 2 talks here. The first one presented by Helen, titled "2 Wrongs Don't Make a Right, Learn the Value of Proper Deduplication." And the second one presented by myself will be titled Tips and Techniques for Handling Graphics when Transitioning to DITA. So if you're taking part in that show, please feel free to drop in and listen to the presentations and ask any questions that you may have. And then in October, we'll be attending LavaCon, which was just announced recently that it's also going to be virtual. Helen has a presentation there as well, titled Making Choices When Migrating Content. So again, if you're attending LavaCon, feel free to drop into our virtual booth, ask any questions you may have, and interact with us. And yeah, so hopefully Helen's had enough time to read through the questions. I'll pass the mic back to her so that we can conclude.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So I just have a couple of questions. One of them is one that I don't have an immediate answer to, so I will get back to you. What happens to FrameMaker file info? It's not clicking with me what that would constitute, so I will have to check it out, but I will get back to you on that. Otherwise, one of the questions is, does it have to be structured FrameMaker? And the answer is no, it does not have to be structured FrameMaker, though it could be. We can use some of the things that you get from structured FrameMaker to help us get good structure. But mostly we tend to rely on the visual elements so that we can instruct the computer to understand some of the things that we see visually. And also, next question. So I converted just a single FrameMaker chapter. Can you convert an entire book at one time? Yes, you can, and it works very well. What you would do is you would take each individual chapter, save it as .mif, save the book file as .mif also, because that's what's going to glue everything together in order. And then just put a little text file in your zip file that just tells Migrate which is the file name of the book file. Then when Migrate creates the intermediate XML, it puts all the chapters together in the order that's specified in the book map, in the book file. And that enables all the links, the internal links, to be generated correctly, so that a link in one topic will work to link to the next topic because they're all being processed together. And that's, I think that's it for questions now. Oh, yeah, it seems to be it. Yeah, so that if there's any other questions, it's not too late. Otherwise, you can always send us questions after the fact. We're happy to take questions at any time and get back to you with whatever answers we can. And this is our contact information here. So we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, I think that concludes the webinar, and I don't think any. Oh, we actually just got a question, and I'll let you address that quickly, Helen. A couple more are coming in now. Okay, we'll answer those if we can.
Okay. Do you need to reconvert the book or file whenever you make a change in the rule editor? You don't need to, but okay, I see what you're getting at. So if you've converted and then you want to make a change and you open up the rules editor again, then if you want to download the document again, yes, you will have to reconvert because it's now not in the stage of converted. So when you open up the rules editor using a specific document, it reverts to the annotated stage. You need to hit convert again to have it convert so that you can download it. Is it possible to bring the pictures into the DITA files? So what happens is if the images are linked, we preserve the link. So the images themselves are not in the DITA files, but the links to them are. Typically, just by default, even if you upload the images, we don't include them in the download, just by default. However, if it's important that you have those images in your output, we can configure it so that if you upload an image folder, it will come down in the download as well. And as long as your links are pointing to the same place, then it should work when you go to view it or publish it in the DITA. Okay, what is the annotated stage? Sorry. So we're going back to the previous question. When you open up the rules editor, it's creating a view of the rules of the document with the rules attached to it. And when the rules attach, what they're doing is annotating that intermediate XML. That's what we refer to as the annotated stage, and you'll see it on the screen. The status is marked as annotated. And when we re-annotate, it wipes out the converted stage, so that converted folder gets wiped out. So from the annotated stage, there is nothing there to download. So you have to hit convert again. Even if you were okay with the content that you had, once you open up the rules editor, whether you make any changes or not, it takes it to the annotated stage. So then you do have to reconvert. I hope that helps. I hope that makes it clear. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it for questions, unless anybody else has any more. No?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. And again, if you have any further questions, you can contact us at contact@stilo.com. And yeah, we'd like to thank everyone for attending, and we hope to speak with you all soon. So goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody.